right? Last time we left off at the very fag end of the risk management, and we were discussing uh, the risk transfer, various models of contractual documents, which is more suitable for whom. Okay, once we transfer the risk, then we give services to someone, we outsource services to someone. So we are the buyer of services, and the other person, the contractor, is the seller of services. So what I do is I reduce my risk, and that person takes the risk on. Now the desire of the buyer is to get rid of the whole risk, while seller also doesn't want to carry the risk. But this is the kind of contract you engage into, which will give the risk as much as to the seller or buyer. The best scenario for buyer and the worst scenario for seller could be a firm fixed price, in which you somehow agree with the contractor on a fixed price, and once it is agreed, nothing can change, no matter what scenario comes, what the intensity of the risk is. But because you are in contract with the contractor is supposed to abide by it, and he has to take on the complete brunt of the risk. So this is a firm fixed price. In this, you don't really have to pay anything until and unless the contractor fulfills certain obligations or requirements which have been outsourced to him. So firm fixed price, say you can make, you think you can construct a house of your own in say 2 crore, and you don't want to get involved into the nitty-gritty of the thing, and you want to get rid of the risk. So you say, okay, I'm ready to pay some premium, and you award this contract to some contractor. Now, this is a different kind of contract. In this contract, we have given all the responsibility to the contractor, and he is also responsible for all kinds of investments. So you will only pay when certain objectives are met. So that way we have already decided what is to be paid and when it is to be paid. This is a firm fixed price. If something goes wrong, if the prices rise or whatever happens, investment is of the contractor. So he will have to bear the brunt. He will have to deliver the project on a specific date. He will have to ensure that all equipment is met. So this is that kind of contract which is firm fixed price, and it is worst case scenario for the seller and best case scenario for the buyer. A little lighter side is that you may be a bit kind to the contractor, and you give him some leeway, naturally to your advantage as well. Maybe you go into a firm fixed price, but with some incentive for the contractor. This is called fixed price plus incentive. Now, fixed price incentive is that you give this incentive to the contractor, that maybe if you do earlier, I can give you this much extra money. If you do better, you can get this advantage. So although the contract is fixed price, investment is still done by him, but you are somehow giving him some incentive to work better, work faster, and maybe to with the payment incentive means that you are taking some of his risk. So he will be more interested in the work. He would be less bothered about the risk, but naturally at some cost he is ready to take on risk more boldly. This is good for you because you will get your benefit at some additional cost. These two are firm fixed price contracts, and there could be other types of firm fixed price contracts as well. But So, two scenarios we have discussed. Number one, we do not have the capacity to do something, so we outsource. We do not have capability to do something, so we outsource. And the third is, usually people say that it is cheaper if we get it done from the contractor. Yes, exactly, but we call it risk. If this job has a higher risk, I would like to transfer it to the contractor. And this is exactly what we discussed in risk management, that we may transfer the risk. So basically, if I am capable of doing that job, I have the capacity to do that job, but because I am not the best person to do that job, so and this is a too risky a job, if I handle it, the chances of failure are too high, and that failure could be in time or cost or anything. So the chances of failure are too high. So I would rather like to, you know.
Great.
So in bid documents, we have, I already mentioned the request for information, which is uh, when we are not sure about something and we want additional information from the bidders, then we issue a request for information, and this is a no liability kind of a document. They can provide explanation about goods and services in that. Request for quotation is for those cases where I am dealing with buying certain equipments or items, where the scope is very clear. I need a sheet of 3 by 4 feet of steel and whatever. If I am really very clear about what I want, then I will just ask for it. This is request for quotation. Request for quotation would be decided mainly based on the cost. So it does not matter because the quality is already pre-decided and everything. But that is for items I procure. RFP is different. RFP is usually for solutions. You see, if I am buying a AC, I will specify what kind of AC I want, and I can do it through RFQ. But if I want, I don't know, I want an AC, but I want the temperature control of my room to a specific level. Maybe there is a special machine lying in my room and that has a specific requirements. So this I need a solution now. I don't need uh, some equipment. So I will pose the problem to a contractor and he will solve it. So my RFP will be giving you the problem, and the bidders will actually be proposing their solution. That's why we are calling it request for proposal. Then is a statement of work, which I have already explained, that as soon as I decide to get something done from through outsourcing, I will write that thing down in a shape of a statement of work for each procurement work. The procurement SOW, again, like any other document, it must be written in very clear, complete, and concise terms. It should exactly specify what it is all about, what we expect out of the work. This is kind of a statement which we normally give in a tender statement, tender notice in the newspaper. But the details about the thing are actually given in the request for proposal or request for quotation. And that could be separately procured. Actually, for if I'm buying items, my RFQ can be very simple. अस्सलाम वालेकुम। आवाज गई? अच्छा, हाँ प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है, मैं देखता हूँ एक मिनट। जी जनाब.
हाँ जी, अब I can hear you.
Actually, I had to change my network. I don't know what happens. नई सर्विस एक आई है और वो वैसे तो बहुत अच्छी चलती है लेकिन नेट एकदम गायब हो जाता है समटाइम्स.
अच्छा, सही सही सही.
ओके जी, एक मिनट जरा, मैं इसको काबू ही नहीं आता मेरे. राइट. So we were talking about the statement of work. A statement of work is a document which we created after the make or buy decision, and for every group of tasks which is to be outsourced, separate statement of work will be created, and that should clearly define what we want out of it. As far as the request for proposals are concerned, naturally the scope is not really very clear for request for proposal, and we have a problem and we want the contractor to provide us a solution, a proposal. Therefore, it has to be elaborated in more detail. So in newspapers, we will only give a small ad, request for proposal, and some dates and some basic data about it. And that data is basically the extract of statement of work. It could be the full statement of work or an extract of the statement of work, and it would mention that you can collect the details from our office, which is download the RFP from our website. If it is a quotation, and it is a quotation for few items, then probably you can write down those items in the newspaper ad also. And sometimes I have seen some quotations, RFQs, which are on the whole big page of the newspaper listing all of the items, because that is all to be based on the cost. And we are very clear what we want. So I have mentioned all the items. Whomsoever want to bid for it, he can bid for it. So procurement statement of work must be very clear that where are the terms of conditions, are they separately being issued, is the proposal available outside or within the newspaper, or how clear is the scope. So statement of work should actually explain everything, because statement of work is a document which is parent of all subsequent procurement documents. So based on this, all the subsequent procurement documents are created. And procurement documents, as I said, and we have already discussed, RFI, RFP, RFQ. RFQ is request for quotation, RFI is request for information, IFP is invitation for bid. So statement of work is parent to all of these documents, and you must prepare the relevant document for relevant purpose. This is a comparison of some procurement documentation. Procurement management plan, what it is and how it works, procurement strategy, statement of work, bid documents, and all that. So you can go through this at your ease. Source selection criteria.
Sir, one question.
Ji.
Normally in our industry, we come across the scope of work document a lot. I mean, it's a technical document where we define what needs to be provided, as a service, for example, and it gives all the details. So, statement of work or scope of work are similar, or I mean, because here I don't see scope of work as a formal document. So is it the same, only the name is different, or it is something completely altogether different from statement of work?
No, actually, scope of work is a hybrid terminology people have created between the scope
Right.
of work, between the statement of work and the scope. You understand what PMI terminology is? PMI says that detailed scope of the project is project scope statement, and the work
Right.
for outsourcing is statement of work. Naturally, statement of work also has defined the scope of work to be outsourced. So basically, what you are calling scope of work, or your organization is calling scope of work, is basically the statement of work.
Right.
But do not confuse it with the scope statement, because scope statement is your internal document, right? So
Right.
before you can outsource anything, you design the whole thing around the scope statement, and later on when
Right.
you decide the make or buy thing, and then this is just a naming convention. You call it scope of work, but this is basically the statement of work.
Right.
Okay, source selection criteria, what all should be considered once you create that. You must somehow be able to check in that whether the party who is applying for that does really understand the need of the project. They will the selected seller produce the lower total cost of ownership. You see, sometimes the solution looks very cheap, but actually there are lot many liabilities coming along with it. Like in most of the Chinese equipment, the Chinese equipment may look very cheap to you, but the maintenance cost may be so high that it is going to be more expensive than another vendor. So what is the cost of ownership? Total cost of ownership, cost plus operating cost. So this must also be taken care of in the source selection criteria. Technical capability, does the seller have or can the seller be reasonably expected to acquire the technical skills and knowledge needed? Risk, how much risk is embedded in the statement of work? Once you have created the statement of work, you wanted the risk to be given over to the seller. And seller is playing a game with you of bouncing the ball back to you. So in his contract, you will be amazed to see that he will be bouncing all the risk back to you while taking your money of the contract. We don't want that. So you should be intelligent enough as if you ensure that risk is properly outsourced. What is the management approach of the seller? What is the technical approach of the seller? How much warranty he is giving? What is the financial capacity does the seller have, or can the seller reasonably be expected to obtain the necessary financial resources? You must understand, how good this company is, how old this company is. Production capacity and interest. Does the seller have the capacity and interest to meet the potential future requirements? Business size and type. Past performance of sellers does matter a lot. References. Can the seller provide references for prior customers verifying the seller's work experience and compliance? Intellectual property rights. Who will own the intellectual property rights after the job has been done? Proprietary right. Does the seller assert proprietary rights in the work processes or services they will do, or in the products they will produce for the project? Like you see, if you have SAP installed in your organization, you can't claim that SAP will now be my property, because you just have one copy installed in your organization. This property, you cannot remove the name of SAP from there. So this is a proprietary right. Conduct procurements. We are now in execution. We have planned everything. Now, whatever we had planned, none of those things have actually gone in action. This is the time in execution when we will start giving out several different projects. Contracts. So what do we do? I have I have a schedule with me when what contract must start. So if I have got, say, a contract starting after 6 months, I must plan backwards from there. I must know how much time it takes from advertising in the newspaper to the award of the contract. Say it takes 3 months. So 3 months prior to starting that work, I should be able to give this ad into the newspaper. So because in planning we have created everything, the ads are ready, the documents are ready, everything is ready. I just have to initiate that process. So I will initiate that, the ads in the newspaper or whatsoever. I have to advertise it, and in response to that, People will be querying, I should be able to answer them. We should organize a pre-bidder meeting, not once, but if possible more than once, as if all the doubts are clarified. And the date of submission should be having a sufficient margin for the contractor, as if nobody should say that we did not get enough time to prepare our proposal. So, by the date the proposals are received, we should be able to um, screen the proposals, uh, firstly based on the basic criteria. So anybody who is not fulfilling the basic criteria, his application, his proposal will not be received on the counter. And those proposals which will be received, I'm explaining the procedure. Those proposals which have been received, we should have already mentioned. If it is a quotation, then it will be directly opened in front of everyone and announced. The results. The results will be announced. But if it is a technical proposal, I mean, it is a RFP. Normally, RFP, the general rule. I'm not saying it is a specific rule. The general rule is that if you are dealing with a proposal, you do not want to do the financial and technical evaluation simultaneously. But you can also, but generally it is better to do them separately. First, go for technical evaluation as if you are not impressed by the cost. Do not see the financial solution, keep it somewhere else in lock and key. Do your technical analysis, technical evaluation, and anyone who clears the technical evaluation, only those people will be tested for the financial analysis. So there are two envelope tests which will be carried out. First, anyone who clears the technical will only move on to the financial side, and financial we will then decide who can be awarded. Then we will get into the negotiations of contract with that person, and ultimately we will award the contract to that person. So in the conduct procurements, we have the need for scope management plan, requirement management plan, communication management plan, risk management plan, procurement management plan, configuration management plan, and even the cost baseline. And in documents, we will get a number of things like our own project schedule, lessons learned, requirement documents, etc. Because these things are important while considering the procurement conduct procurement process. Thirdly, the procurement documentation which we just created in the seller proposal, which we just received, will be also input into this process. The tools are naturally the expert judgment. I do the advertising, I do the bidder conferences, I do the data analysis, evaluation of the processes, and then for contract signing, we have to do the negotiations with the contractors. Ultimately, the seller will be selected, agreement will be signed, and change request, if any, will be sent to integrated change control, and resultantly, a number of project management plan documents will be updated, project documents will be updated, and many things in project plan will also be updated in light of this procurement. And organizational process assets will also get updated. Bidder conference, I have already mentioned that this is the pre-bid meeting. When you advertise something in the newspaper, people may have queries. Naturally, they will call you, and you should have a help desk where all their queries can be recorded and they can be answered. But for contracts, it is not really clear if you can somehow do it on a telephone. So generally, for clarification of certain queries, we have to conduct a conference, a bidder conference. It is called a pre-bid conference. It's called where all the people who have submitted their interest or who have collected the request for proposal, they all are invited to come and ask questions. Some of them will send questions. No, they are encouraged to send questions beforehand, as if we can prepare and be able to answer them. But that does not mean that anybody who has not sent the questions earlier will not be answered. I have seen in some of the pre-bid meetings, the government person who was heading the pre-bid meeting, he said No new questions, please. Because he was not prepared. And basically, this is incompetence. He did not have an iota of knowledge what he is answering. He was reading out of a paper. So whatever was written out by someone, the earlier questions received, the answers somebody has written for him, and he was just reading them out to the audience. Generally, the purpose is to ask your problem and queries, and the person should be an expert. The technical expert should be standing in front in the pre-bid meeting, and he should be able to answer everything. Not only the technical expert, but the maybe a contract expert and a legal expert. All these people, kind of people, should be sitting in a pre-bid meeting who should be able to answer all the questions regarding the bids. And I would rather prefer to have not one but more than one pre-bid meeting. It is good to have at least two, because in the first pre-bid meeting it is normally observed that the bidders do not come prepared. They just rush towards the pre-bid meeting and they just want to say one thing. Sir, we need more time to prepare. They don't have any argument, any objection, anything, any clarification. They just have one argument, that we should be given more time. And that is all. So most of the bidders will be doing this in your first meeting. So arrange another meeting, and in that ask them to come prepared with the questions. Are you with me?
Yes, I'm following.
Then are the proposal evaluation techniques. On complex procurements, where source selection will be made based on seller responses to previously defined weighted criteria which we have created in planning, a formal evaluation review process will be defined by the buyer's procurement policies. So our procurement policies are taking care of, organizational procurement policies. The evaluation committee will make their selection for approval by management prior to the award. So if there is a mechanism in my organization, that will be followed for my project as well. Then are the negotiations. They clarify the structure, requirement, and other terms of the purchase. So the contract will be negotiated. All the clauses in between, the timing, the schedule, and everything, the language itself, this all has to be finalized. And ultimately, this process is negotiation. And again, I would say that when two parties are negotiating for contract, then there are three people who are necessary to be there. Number one, the executive of the organization. Number two, the lawyer of the organization. Number three, the financial expert. Technical expert is not required at this stage. Technical expert has done his job, evaluations and all that, and ultimately he actually was responsible to get you there. Now is the final moment to negotiate. But as a fourth person, if a technical expert can also be made to sit there, that is fine. But generally speaking, I have personal experience that at that stage they are not talking technical aspects. They are talking legal aspects. They are talking financial aspects and things like that. And we used to be the technical experts, so we were only called when required. And by the way, this negotiation is not a very small thing. That it is a 15-minute meeting and everybody shakes hands at the end of it. This is a lengthy process. It goes on for days and days. So both parties actually are fighting with each other. Their lawyers and their financial experts and their executives, they are actually getting somewhere. So this is going to be a lengthy process. It may take days or weeks, and ultimately once it is negotiated, the agreement is to be signed. The contract, the agreement, is a mutually binding agreement that obligates the seller to provide the specific product, service, or result, obligates the buyer to compensate the seller, and represents a legal relationship that is subject to remedy in the court. Major components of the agreement or contract are the statement of work which we created in the very beginning is part of the agreement or contract. The schedule and milestones are part of it. The performance reports are part of it. Pricing and payment terms, inspection, quality, acceptance criteria, warranty and future product support, incentives and penalties, insurance and performance bonds, subordinate subcontractor approvals, general terms of conditions, change request handling, and termination clauses. and alternate dispute resolution mechanisms. These are some of the headings. Again, I'm not giving you any format. You have your own format. You can use whatever your organization is using, but you can always look at this to see if all of these things are present there, and if there anything out of these can be a good addition to your existing system. Then comes the warranties. As we just mentioned, warranties are there. What are the warranties? There are two types of warranties. One is the implied warranty and one is the express warranty. Implied warranty is mere act of sale implies that whatever I am buying is generally fit for use, and it may be fit for special purposes. So does that mean? If I go to a shop and buy something which looks like a glass, then it is expected that it will hold water, and it can be used for drinking water. So if it does not fulfill that purpose, I have all the right to take it back to the shopkeeper, and shopkeeper will have to accept it back. This is implied warranty, that the purpose this item is supposed to fulfill, it is not fulfilling that, therefore it is not of any use to me. So although he didn't give you any warranty, but this is an implied warranty. Then we have express warranty. In certain items, the seller gives you express warranty that if this thing breaks down or something goes wrong with this mobile or whatever, we will fix it. We give you express warranty that for 6 months we will take the responsibility of fixing it. So it is beyond the mere act of sale. It is not only that while you are buying it, you must take care of this thing, but it is beyond the act of sale, and you can always get it back for repairs. So seller makes specific representations for that. They make it possible for those things to be repaired. Last but not the least is the control procurements. Here we are actually having an eye on the contractor according to the contract. Contract is the document. Project man plan is not the document which contractor will ever bother about, because that is your project man plan. That is not his project man plan. The only relationship between you and the contractor is the contract, and contract defines everything. So you are supposed to check the work of the contractor exactly in accordance with the contract and according to the clauses of the contract. Controlled procurement is the process of managing procurement relationships, monitoring procurement performance, and making changes and corrections as appropriate, and closing out the project. So everything about the project will be done according to the clauses in the contract. Key benefit of this process is to ensure that both the seller and buyer performance meet the project's requirements according to the terms of the legal agreement. This process is performed throughout the project as needed. And let's look at the inputs, tools, and techniques. Naturally, we have got the project management plan, a number of things: requirement management plan, risk management plan, procurement management plan, change management plan, and schedule baseline. In procurement documents, also we have assumptions logs and so many other documents. Agreement is the contract. Naturally, that is the most important thing here, because we are actually going to be abiding by that. And procurement documentation, which was created, so that is also provided to us. Approved change requests, if any, will come here, and we will see their impact. We will have to enforce those change requests. Therefore, we have to inform the contractor accordingly. Work performance data, we will evaluate the work performance data. The work performance data not only coming from the other parts of my project, but I will also be receiving a work performance data from my contractor, and I will be evaluating his performance also. But from the main project side, if there whatever is happening is somehow going to impact my contract, then I have to warn my contractor that the things are changing or have changed, and therefore the understanding on which we were working may also need to be changed. So that way, maybe the contract between the two may have to be renegotiated because of an internal change in the organization or in the project. The tools and techniques, we have the expert judgment. Claims administration is a big job. That is, whenever something is done, the contractor will put up a claim. The claims will be handled separately by a separate department, and they will ensure certain checklist is complete as if the claims can be released. So claims administration is a separate job, but you must ensure as a project manager that no claims remain unanswered. Every claim must be in a queue and should not be delayed unnecessarily.
Sir, by claim you mean they're doing their invoicing, basic invoicing, or it is some additional claim that they are doing?
Invoicing. Basically, once your contractor will do something, they will, according to the contract, they will put up their claim that this payment should be made to us. Now, if you do not make the payment, then there will be a conflict reason, and then for the adjustment of that claim, they may have to go to the court, because according to the contract, you were supposed to pay them, and they have put up the claim also. That is a legal procedure they have done, and you have not fulfilled their claim. You must have a good reason for that. You may say that your work was not up to the standard, and according to the contract, I am not going to pay you for that. So you must have a genuine reason, but you just not can delay it for no specific purpose. So the work performance data I have received, I will analyze that data here, and the procedure for doing that is performance reviews, earned value analysis, trend analysis. We understand all these terms earlier. Then the product, the output which is coming out from the contractor is to be inspected. Product deliverable is inspected by the control procurement process first, and audits, because we are doing it according to the contract, and the work being done in the contract must be audited. So basically, we are performing the function of quality assurance, quality control, and scope validation as far as the contract, as far as the contract portion is concerned. But naturally, these things once passes from this place will naturally go to the traditional quality control and all that. So those processes will be followed. As a result, the procurements will be done and completed. Claims have been answered. Procurements will be closed. Work performance information will be created, will be sent to monitor and control project work. Procurement documents will be updated. Change request, if any, would be moved on. Project plan and project documents and process assets will get updated. So administrative activities may include collection of data and managing project reports, including maintenance. So it is very much possible that the person made responsible for administration of the contract must have some administrative staff to conduct these activities. So somebody has to be responsible for these administration activities. So collecting the data from the contractor, managing those records, including maintenance of detailed reports of physical and financial performance, and establishment of measurable procurement performance indicators. Refinement of procurement plans and schedules, set up for gathering, analyzing, and reporting procurement-related project data, and preparation of periodic reports to the organization. Monitoring the procurement environment so that implementation can be facilitated and adjustments made, and the payment of invoices. All this has to be administered properly. Somebody sitting in project management team must be assigned this responsibility depending upon what complexity and the volume of the project is. We may not have any team member, and the contract administrator can be doing it himself, or he can have a team of a small team of two to three people who are handling this job, depending upon just the size and complexity of the project. Claims administration, contested changes and potential constructive changes are those requested changes where the buyer and seller cannot reach an agreement or compensation for the change or cannot agree that a change has occurred. These contested changes are called claims. When they cannot be resolved, first of all, if he makes a claim and it is agreed, then it is resolved. Otherwise, they become disputes and finally appeals, and we have to go to court for them. Claims are documents processed, monitored, managed throughout the contract lifecycle, usually in accordance with the terms of the contract. If the parties themselves do not resolve a claim, it may have to be handled in accordance with alternate dispute resolution (ADR). typically following procedures established in the contract, already given in the contract. Settlement of all claims and disputes through negotiation is always the preferred method. You remember we talked about it, that we must reach some consensus by ourselves. Third party is never going to resolve a problem. In data analysis, we have the performance reviews of the contract, measure, compare, analyze quality, resource, schedule, and cost performance against the agreement. Earned value analysis, which is very useful nowadays. Schedule and cost variances can be calculated according to that, as we do for our own project. Trend analysis, that is forecast and establishing trends, the value of estimate at completion, estimate to complete, and all that. TCPI, these all are the trend analysis. This brings us to the end of procurement. Sir, any questions?
No, it's pretty much clear. This part, it's good for me.
I suppose you should take some time now, go through the whole material, and do let me know
Right.
you want to talk again.
Sure. I think I will have some doubts, so I will just bother you again if I have any questions or I need any guidance.
Exactly. So,
Right, sir.
do let me know. Just send me a message or call me, and we can schedule another day.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much for everything.
Most welcome. Take care.
Thank you. Take care, sir. Allah Hafiz.